Well, I gotta start our day with a little bit of this nonsense. I don't know why I like those Arabian looking buildings, but I do. I don't know what that is. I think it's like a temple or a praying place of some sort, but I've never been over there. Well, today we're down here in Crenshaw, and I'm bringing you guys to the murder location of Marvin Gaye Jr. This house was purchased for Marvin Gaye's parents so that they would have somewhere to live, and Marvin had, I guess in 1983, he had done sexual healing and had done a tour, and he was not a fan of doing tours where he developed a lot of paranoia and actually was wearing bulletproof vests. But that's when he got back into doing cocaine, which is what his father ultimately used in his case. His father did shoot him. The story goes that apparently Marvin's father, a few days before the murder or the shooting, had taken out an insurance policy on the house, the family members, and was enraged for days before the shooting because he couldn't find the paperwork. And Marvin Jr. had apparently been kind of abused as a child, so he was staying at the house. They said he was extremely suicidal. During the days leading up, he had jumped out of a moving sports car and had sustained minor injuries. But yeah, they said there was no doubt all he talked about was suicide and killing himself. And they said sometimes he would wear 3 overcoats and would have his shoes on the wrong feet. So we're actually at the house. Now what happened was Marvin's father was screaming at his mother looking for those documents, and Marvin came in, interrupted, and said, enough, and physically started like shoving him and telling him, to stop it. And then it turned into like just Marvin Jr. beating up his father, kicking him, and then throwing him out of the room to keep his mother safe. So then they said that it was kind of oftenly known in the family that the father had said if any of his children ever struck back at him, he would murder them, he would kill them. And the gun that he ended up killing Marvin with was a gift from Marvin. It was a .38 Smith & Wesson Special that he had given him to protect this house. So we're actually at the house. You can see it behind me. And the scuffle ensued. Marvin went back up to his room after his mother separated them, and then the father came up and shot him. So here we're going to show you the house. Marvin in his studio. That's the house that Marvin Gaye would have been murdered in. It could have been that room. I honestly haven't been able to see an inside floor plan to get an idea of where it would have been, but this was the house. That's the address, 2101 Gramercy, South Gramercy. Yeah, it could have been any one of those rooms up there. To my knowledge, family members still live here. I guess at one point his sisters moved in, and then, like I said, Marvin Jr. had stayed here, and yeah, there's a little guest house over here as well. That's the Marvin Gaye house, Marvin Gaye murder house. Real piece of history. What an amazing voice Marvin Gaye had. This is from the massive memorial they had at the home afterward. Little side view of the house. I'm sure somebody still lives here, associated with the family, but what a historical place. So the unfortunate result to all of that was that, Marvin was dead. They said that the first shot was fatal. It killed him. He slid right down the wall. And his father stood trial. They claimed that he claimed that he was scared, and he claimed that it was self-defense, and he didn't know what happened. They actually operated on his father and found a benign tumor, and then he stood trial and was given a 6-year prison sentence, but it was suspended on manslaughter, and he was given 5 years probation. Marvin's son, who was a 17-year-old at the time, became co-administrator of the estate and ended up getting hit with a huge tax bill for unpaid taxes. I think they said like $1 million, so pretty sad ending to it all. You know, in the end, they tried to blame drugs, and he did have, they said, cocaine and PCP, angel dust, in his system. But, you know, it's just a bad combination. Drugs, already feeling suicidal, and then the psychological trauma of being, you know, what he went through as a child, and then this happening later. I'm sure he just didn't care what happened, and you know, obviously the father pleaded it to the court that if he could change it and bring him back, he would. That's the sad end of Marvin Gaye. I wanted to play a little bit of my favorite Marvin Gaye song. It's called "Here My Dear." It was his divorce album, and I wanted to show a little bit of his funeral and some of the aftermath of the Marvin Gaye death. God rest your soul, Marvin. We're now in Hancock Park, which is like a pretty ritzy, posh, nice neighborhood. This used to be like a lot of the old silent movie stars used to live here, and including one named Lois Weber, who, when she moved out of this house we're about to see at 401 South Muirfield, Nat King Cole bought it. Now, the big deal about this was that Nat King Cole was the first African American to live in this neighborhood, and he was buying this house for what is reported between $65,000, $75,000, and $85,000. Now this property, the last time it sold, was $5.5 million. But the story goes that when he moved in, or when he was looking at buying this, the homeowners association actually offered him $25,000 to think again and not move here, which he declined. He bought the house, and while he was moving in, some of the neighbors came up and told him that they didn't want undesirables in their neighborhood, and he responded by saying, well, if I see any, I'll let you know. So the interesting thing also about this house is that in 1949, the government seized it from him because they said he owed $149,000 in back taxes, which he very quickly paid, and reclaimed the house. Natalie Cole, in her lifetime, talked many times about how big of a deal Christmas were at this home, and that when she would drive by it, she would always like get very wistful about it and always wishes she could go in, and actually said that ever since the house was sold, that it's been nothing but African American families who have bought it. So let's get a little view of the Nat King Cole home. Oh, one other thing I wanted to mention was that while he lived here, the KKK was still around, and they burned a cross in his front yard when he first moved. The house is pretty heavily guarded by foliage, but I want to at least give you like a little bit of a look at it. Apparently has a swimming pool and a tennis court, and it's a big, what I would consider very gigantic corner home. So yeah, here's Nat King Cole's home while he was alive, of course. I'm trying to block out the sun a little bit for you. Pretty big place. And this is obviously the yard where he would have had a cross burned. Pretty sick world. And this would have been Nat King Cole's front walk. If you were a guest of his, you would have walked up this right into the front. I'm actually gonna take a little walk off to the side here as well and just give you maybe a little bit of a side view, because it is, like I said, a very big property. That would have been the entryway right there, and that's the home that you have to imagine the Christmas song was sang live in person many years, many years. Now I'm guessing that they've had a lot of people like me out here doing this because they have cameras and everything everywhere, so we'll pretty much call it an end to this one. But that's Nat King Cole's home. Legends. And this, I would assume, would be Nat King Cole's driveway and garage. He would have driven his car in every night. When I got home, I found this photo of Nat in front of the house, and it looks like there used to be a driveway going up through what is now the grass, and they've created that little walkway since then, and now put a driveway in the back. And then a few family little photos and retrospect photos, just to get an idea of Nat King Cole. I think everybody's kind of been wondering what that is. Slug bug. And I think Ja deserves us to end it all over here at the pet store. And he seems to be in a hurry. Beeline. Oh. That one, Ja? You all done or you want more? I guess not.